Hey, hey, what's up? Happy Thursday. You know, jumped on here a little bit Monday. It was rushed, abbreviated. Didn't have much time. Didn't even have my thoughts together. Figured we'd do it again Thursday. Kind of make up for it. So, if you got any questions you want to get in about spring practice, tonight's the night to get them in. Um, we've had 3 days now. Media was allowed in to watch all or the early periods of each of the 3 days so far, not counting a day, obviously, but so got to see a little bit. They don't let us see a bunch, but if you got any spring football questions, drop them in. I'd be glad to answer them best I can. We're gonna start out with basketball, though. Clemson's got a big game tonight. Probably do or die for their tournament hopes. 3 seed in the ACC tournament. Yet here we are in Greensboro. They're still playing for their tournament life. They are on the bubble, 61 in the the nationally relevant net rankings or whatever. I think those things are trash, but that's just me. It's neither here nor there. They're 61st in the net. Playing NC State for the third time. NC State shot the lights out of the ball last night against Virginia Tech. I mean, just kind of an uncharacteristic performance. They're not known to be a great shooting team. It's actually how I think Clemson's managed to beat them so handily the first two times they played. They've kind of focused their defense on shutting down their perimeter shooting game, which isn't great to begin with, and let that big man they've got do his thing and focus on taking everybody else out of their element. And it's kind of worked to perfection. I would expect Clemson to come in with a very similar game plan tonight. It's worked so well the first two times. But if North Carolina State shoots the ball like they did last night, they'll be hard to beat. I don't care how good Clemson plays tonight. That was one heck of a performance they put on last night. It was that good. Can they do it 2 nights in a row? Probably not. Probably not. And if you're a Clemson fan, you got to hope they surely can't. But again, if you can kind of slow that perimeter game down a little bit, you can let the big man do his thing and take care of business on the offensive end. I think Clemson can win this game. Obviously, they got to shoot the ball well. They shot well against them in their win over them in Clemson earlier in the season, and they shot the lights out of the ball in Raleigh a couple of weeks ago where they just throttled North Carolina State. Obviously, if Clemson shoots the ball that well, they'll be hard to beat. Probably what will happen will be somewhere in the middle. And that's usually how these things work out. Conventional wisdom says it's hard to beat the same team 3 times in the same season. And I generally buy into that theory because it generally is. I do think Clemson has a very good shot at beating this team, and I think they've found the blueprint for beating this North Carolina State team. I think they match up well with them for the most part. I mean, obviously they don't have a guy the size of North Carolina State's big man, but they tend to let him get his and focus on not letting anybody the rest of the team beating them, and it's kind of worked. I would imagine we'll see more of the same tonight. One of the biggest things for Clemson is going to be Hunter Tyson. When Clemson's really been at their best, it's when Hunter Tyson's doing this thing. When they've not played as well or when they've been at their worst, has been in games where Tyson has kind of disappeared. For example, the game against Duke when I think he threw up 2 shots. You can't get 2 shots from Hunter Tyson if you're this Clemson team. He's got to be a bigger factor than that. And it's not necessarily just scoring points. He's usually getting double-digit rebounds, so you need him attacking the glass. I think Brevin Galloway is going to be a big key to this game, how well he plays tonight. Obviously, Chase Hunter, he's the point guard. Everything runs through him. But I think you need Brevin Galloway to shoot the ball well, and you need Hunter Tyson doing his thing. If those two things happen and you don't get a bunch of costly turnovers, giving up easy buckets on the other end, I think Clemson's got a good shot in this game. I think it's sad that we're sitting here in March talking about a 3 seed in the ACC tournament having to play their way in the ACC tournament. It just shows what a joke the net rankings are. Did away with the RPI because the RPI focused on too much on who you played instead of who you beat. And here we are. Net's doing the same thing. See some of these teams got that they're 1-8, 2-9, 2-11, whatever against quad 1 teams, and they're in the top 40 of the net rankings. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. And granted, Clemson hasn't played that many games against quad 1 teams. I think they are 4. I think they played 11 games, maybe 4 and 7, something like that. I don't know. 3 of their 4 quad 1 wins are on the road. That's kind of strong. Not there. There are some teams above them that can't say that. And I know, everybody says, but what about the Louisville loss? You know what? If 1 loss is going to define your season, so be it. If 2 losses it makes your whole season, so be it. Or even 3. Go back to South Carolina earlier in the season. It was P.J. Hall's first game. He might have been 60%. Of course, the dog's always going to have to chime in and give her opinion. But same thing in the loss to Loyola. P.J. Hall nowhere near 100% yet. The loss to Louisville, yeah, it's bad. We get it. We all understand the loss to Louisville was bad. Louisville also packed that arena that night. They were celebrating one of their national title teams that night. They have very rarely packed that arena this year. It's usually not even half full to my understanding, but that night it was packed. It was electric in there. It's a little bit different than most other home games. Not an excuse, just it is what it is. It's a bad loss, I get it, but you can't have your whole season defined by 1 or 2 bad losses, especially when you got a win over Duke. You got wins over 3 other quad one teams, and 3 of those games came on the road. 3 of those wins came on the road. They got to at least cancel each other out. Too much emphasis on who you play and who you lose to. Not enough emphasis placed on who you beat, in my opinion. There's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way than this. For example, the net is supposed to take into account offensive and defensive efficiency. Clemson's last win over Notre Dame, where they blew their doors off, led throughout pretty much by 17, 20 points for pretty much most of the game. You don't get much more efficient than that. And Clemson falls in the net rankings. There's got to be a better way. Losing North Carolina State tonight, you're probably not getting in, and that's sad. This team, this Clemson team, and you can say it's the fan in me all you want, but I think I do a pretty good job of leaving my biases out of my opinions. Sometimes I think I probably lean a little further in the opposite direction just to make sure I'm leaving my biases out of it. But I 100% absolutely believe this team has already earned a bid to the NCAA tournament, and the fact that they're still having to play for one is absurd. Um, it just makes no sense to me. The net rankings are absolute trash. Make no mistake. Yeah, I don't know. You got to at least win one for sure. The last time Clemson beat North Carolina State, they took a big jump in the net. I can't remember specifically how many spots they jumped up, but it was a big jump. You take that kind of, if you take a similar jump, it doesn't even have to be that big. You take a similar jump again tonight, and you're not, and if you lose tomorrow, you're probably not going to drop very far. I don't know. I've tried to figure out the net all year long, and I can't. I just can't make it make sense. I have no idea if they're gonna if one's enough. I feel like it should be, which probably means it won't be. Yeah, I want to say it was 16. I want to say they jumped up 16 spots after they beat North Carolina State last time. Now, I don't expect they'll beat them as soundly. If they win tonight, I don't expect they'll blow their doors off the way they did in Raleigh. Everything went right for Clemson in that game. They shot the lights out of the ball. It's hard to shoot the ball that well. So, I mean, I don't expect they'll beat them. If they win, I don't expect it'll be that handily. But I don't know if they got to win one or two. If they win two, I think they're a lock. I mean, I don't – I think if they win one and then lose tomorrow, I mean, I guess they're on the bubble. So who knows, man? You got to – it's like Brad Brownell and some of those guys were saying up there Monday. Just win the whole damn thing and take it out of the selection committee's hands. I mean, there's your path right there. Win the whole thing. Yes, see, I can't answer that, because North Carolina State's not on the bubble right now, right? North Carolina State seems to be firmly in at this point, and if they lose to Clemson, I don't think that's going to knock them out. And Clemson will have beaten them 3 times if they win tonight, obviously. 2 of those we know were blowout wins, once on the road, once at home. I can't explain it. I hate the system. Give me the RPI back over this trash we have now. I don't get it. I hate it. It shouldn't be this way. Give me the eyeball test over this any day of the week. Yeah, I can't stand it. Yep, Clemson beat Pitt too. They are ranked higher than in the net. Pitt. Admittedly, Pitt was one game out of being one game. They were one game away from being the top seed. So I mean, Capel's done a heck of a job with that Pitt team this year, man. He absolutely should have been ACC Coach of the Year probably, but I thought Brownell deserved a little bit more love too. He took a team that was picked to finish 11th, took them to the 3 seed. Nobody expected that, and we can talk all day long about the ACC being down. I get it. The ACC is not quite as good this year as it has been in years past, but I truly believe it's not as down as national media tells us it is. If you take North Carolina and put them in one of those top spots in the standings, and I think the narrative's a little bit different. But since Pitt's been a top of the league all season long, suddenly the league's down. Since Clemson's been in the top 3, 4 spots all year long, suddenly the league's down just because those traditional names aren't at the top. And Is the Big Ten really that much better than the ACC? I don't see it. I mean, maybe I'm blind, but I don't see it. I get it. The Big 12 is good, but is it that much better than the ACC? I mean, going back to the Big Ten, didn't ACC win the ACC Big Ten Challenge? So I hate this. I hate the net rankings. I hate the system we got in place for basketball now. And I know the net's not the only tool used to determine at-large bids and seeding and all that good stuff, but it is the primary tool. It will be a big part of it. Cade looks extremely sharp. Spring practice is different this year. It's a lot different than the last few years since I've been going. The drills are different. Everything's different. When we've been in years past, it's kind of been a carbon copy of the same thing every day, the same drills. And about the only real competition we got to see other than drills were tempo drills that they would run. And it would be the first string offense, then the second string, third string. But they were running those drills against nobody. They were running them against air. It's just the offense out there. First 2 days of practice this year, it was good on good, like the first string offense against the first string defense, and it was competitive. It was extremely competitive. The juices were flowing early. But Klubnik's looked extremely sharp. Again, most of what we've seen is just individual drills. Like they were doing one yesterday where quarterback gets the ball snapped to him, and you got a player on the left side or on the right side, the left side, and one dead ahead of you and a couple out here in between those. You got 4 or 5 guys in kind of like a half circle, and Riley's kind of simulating for the quarterback. He's using hand motions for them to simulate going through their reads and going through their progressions, and then he hits on which one to throw to, and they have to do it in a split second. And Klubnik was extremely sharp in those drills. The throws were dead on. I mean, it was laser-like precision. He looks very comfortable. I heard Garrett Riley tell him he was catching on to this thing quick, especially his lingo, which was making it easier to install, or it was making the install easier when the quarterbacks pick up on it that quick. So by the looks of it, the sound of it, 3 days in, smooth sailing. But we're just getting started. I asked Riley yesterday how much of the offense will be installed in the spring. I think he said 85 to 90%. And after they get it all installed, they'll go back and look for what they did, what they do well, what they don't do so well, and they'll focus on the strengths and build the rest of the offense around that, install the rest in the fall. The more I listen to Garrett Riley talk, the more I like him. It sounds like this is going to be a much easier offense on the players. And the less you have to think on the field, it frees you up to play better, And I'm anxious to see this. I'm anxious for the spring game. I know a lot of guys are out on offense. I get it. He was also asked about that yesterday. Does that hurt his ability to install the offense? And he said, no, not nearly as much as you might think on the surface. It doesn't really affect it at all. It's about it didn't really matter who was there. It's just about getting the reps in right now. So I wouldn't worry about the injuries affecting the install. We'll see how it plays out, though. It should make for a very interesting spring game. Not really. Clemson's got another junior day coming up Saturday. I'll have a write up on that tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that. I'll have a list of who I know is coming in to visit. Talked to Alex Taylor a minute last night. He told me he's going to visit this spring. Won't be this Saturday. Then he'll come back in June for the official visit weekend. But not a lot new. I mean, obviously Aaron Nolan's going to be one of the guys there this weekend. I mean, we'll see how the visit goes and how his recruitment plays out. Long way to go with him. Although I do think he's probably a guy that'll be committed before the end of the summer, but still a long way to go in his recruitment. A lot of teams in play. Clemson gets to make their pitch this weekend, and we'll see if they can gain some traction. That's probably the biggest name visitor of the weekend. But I'll put out a list of players that I know are coming this weekend. It'll be out tomorrow. Be on the lookout for that. Yeah, I've not heard yet whether he's going to be on the booth or in the field. I probably should have asked him that yesterday, but I did not even think about it. Nobody else did either. So probably nobody else thought about it. So I can't answer that one yet. Fazina's a big old boy, man. He's you see his measurables and you know he's a big kid, but you don't realize how big he is until you see him in person. He is a big boy. Very broad-shouldered. Quick release with the football. He looks good. We'll see. Right now, Hunter Helms is taking the number 2 reps with Paul Tyson. Paul Tyson sidelined. We'll see if Hunter can hold off Vizina through the spring. Probably depend on how much Vizina can soak up, because he's obviously got all the physical tools. Those are pretty deep ball, that's for sure. But he looks sharp so far. Again, we don't get to see a ton, but in the drills and things like that, he looks really good. If you are one of those hoping that Clemson is going away from the zone blocking scheme, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that's not happening. The blocking scheme is going to be he talked about that yesterday. It's going to be fairly similar. They're not going away from that zone blocking scheme. I'll tell you another guy that has stood out as Stephon Green is a guy that's jumped out to me. Burley and Peter Woods gets a lot of the hype out of those guys in that recruiting class. But, man, Green looks really good too. He looks like he could contribute this year if given the opportunity. There's a lot of depth, crowded depth chart there on the interior of that defensive line. If he gets any early opportunities, though, he's a guy that might be ready to roll this year along with those other 2 guys, because Peter Woods looks to be as good as advertised. Vic Burley looks to be as good as advertised, and so does Stephon Green. Actually, so does TJ Parker, too, at defensive end. Wouldn't shock me at all if he was one of the backup defensive ends by the time the season rolls around. Man, he looks that good from a physical standpoint, at least anyways. We're talking about recruiting. Alex Taylor and Braylon Staley are probably the 2 I like Clemson's chances with the best at this point. Taylor's from North Carolina. Staley's from Aiken right here in South Carolina. That's not what you're asking. Oh, yeah, okay. Those are the 2 I like Clemson's chances with the best. I think they're in it a little bit for TJ Moore. I just wouldn't call him a favorite. Definitely wouldn't call him the favorite for Jonathan Paylor. I think he's probably leaning South Carolina right now. But I do think Paler is planning on trying to get to Clemson sometime in the spring. Even if he does it, he's planning to come to the official visit weekend in June, and that'll be when Clemson really gets to roll out the red carpet for some of these guys. They have not been able to do that with Paler yet, so they've not been able to put on their best effort while he's been on campus yet. He's been to a couple games, sure, but he's not been to a big recruiting weekend yet. So still a ways to go with some of these guys. To me, those are the 4 names to know right now. Yes. I think Peter Woods is going to play a lot this year. Yeah, this one's kind of hard to answer because Adam Randall's out. Troy Stelato's very limited. He was in yellow the last 2 days. He's still coming back. He's not hurt again. Don't misunderstand. I mean, I think a lot of people are assuming he's hurt again. He's not hurt again. He's still not back from the ACL. He just had that surgery last September, so it's only been about 6 months. He's just not all the way back yet. So he's going to be very limited this spring. He was doing some stuff Monday. If I'm remembering right, he was in a green jersey Monday. Don't hold me to that, but if I'm remembering right, he was. Tuesday and Wednesday, he was in the yellow jersey with no shells and doing individual stuff. But he's going to be limited at best this spring. So you're without Adam Randall, Bo Collins, Troy Stelato. So you're without 3 key cogs there, even though I know Stelato's not been a player yet, but he's that talented. So it kind of handicaps what you're doing there. Antonio Williams looks like he's primed to take that next step. Brandon Spector looks like Brandon Spector. The guy that stands out to me is Noble Johnson, the freshman. I've said it many times. He's built like a tank. He kind of almost looks like a linebacker, but he does not run like one. He is smooth as silk. He just get in and out of his breaks. He makes it look so effortless. He's really good. The little bit we've seen, he's really good at going up and high pointing the ball, and he's very good at making those over the shoulder catches. I think he has a very high ceiling. I think he's going to have an opportunity to contribute early. It'll just depend on how fast he can pick up the offense. Obviously, whether he hits that freshman wall some of these kids hit at times. We'll just have to wait and see. But I do think it hurts that you don't have Adam Randall. To me, that's the biggest loss this spring. You don't need Bo Collins repping every day in practice. He's been there, done that. Obviously, it'd be good to have him. I mean, he's not – let me rephrase that. Yesterday, Collins was involved in all the individual drills. He's just not involved in contact. So he's getting reps at certain things, other things he's not. So he's able to learn the offense despite being limited. So he's kind of a veteran guy. To me, Adam Randall's the one that it really hurts not being there this spring. I haven't seen him really participating in like Bo Collins has. I imagine he had his knees scoped after the season, so they're going to be very careful with him to ensure he's ready by fall camp. I don't know. We'll see. I really think TJ Parker has a chance to come in and pass Dinoff by. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I think that is a possibility. I think he is that good, and that's not a knock on Dinoff. I think that's just how good Parker is. And as we sit here today, I'd probably have Greg Williams penciled in as the other backup. But they need Dinoff and Patterson to take that step regardless, whether they're in the 2 deep or not, because Clemson's so thin at defensive end. And until you see Xavier Thomas stay healthy, you don't know if he's going to be able to. So that they're going to probably need something from those guys, whether they are technically into too deep or not. They're probably one or both are probably going to have to play some this year. This is their third year. It's time for them to take that jump. This is something that I am waiting to see. How Garrett Riley utilizes Jake Brenningstool in this offense. You can tell Brenningstool is really settling in to his role as the guy. He looks like he's comfortable being the leader of that group. With Davis Allen moving on, he has grabbed that leadership role by the horn, so to speak. But I'm anxious to see exactly how he's used in this new offense. We've been clamoring for the tight ends to be more involved. Say what you will about Brandon Streeter, but I did think he made the effort to get the tight ends more involved last year. And I think they need to be even more involved. I've thought that for a long time. Not only the tight ends, but attacking the middle of the field and using the tight ends to do that at times. So that is something I will be looking for in spring game and, in fall camp is exactly how the tight end will be utilized in this offense. I expect the tight ends will be much more of a focal point than they have been in recent years. Brenningstool is a matchup nightmare for opposing defensive coordinators. You have to take advantage of that. Yeah, Justin Masco will be your starter opposite Xavier Thomas. I don't really see any changes in the lineup along the offensive line. Right now, you got to replace Jordan McFadden at left tackle, and Tristan Lee's getting the first opportunity to do that. And I think he's probably going to be your starting left tackle. He's been here 2 years now. I remember talking to him for a few minutes after the Orange Bowl, and he sounded ready. He's patiently waited his turn. We're talking about a former 5-star who was one of the top tackles in the class a couple years ago. Now is the time for him. Other than that, I think it's going to be status quo. Marcus Tate there beside him at guard, Putnam at center, Parks at the other guard, and Blake Miller at right tackle. I have no idea who's a transfer candidate or not. Clemson's so thin at defensive end. To me, it would be crazy for any of those guys to transfer out just because they don't like where they're at on the depth chart after the spring. Again, Xavier Thomas hasn't shown he's just had terrible luck and hasn't been able to stay on the field for 2 years. For whatever reason, he can't play. That's Patterson or Denoff's getting playing time. And probably a good bit of it. So to me, even if Thomas does stay healthy, one of those guys is going to play some. It's just the nature of the business. Whether he's a transfer candidate, I have no idea. Stellato was taking part in some individual workouts Monday. He's been in yellow the last 2 days, just working out by himself. So, he's still coming back from that ACL, like I talked about a minute ago. He's not hurt again. It's not a different injury. He's just not back from that ACL yet. He's got a big brace on that knee, the whole leg sleeved up. So, it's going to take him a little bit longer. Not all guys come back from ACLs at the same speed. Jaheim Lawson, I'll tell you this, that kid's been putting in some work in the weight room. He is noticeably bigger than last season. He was very wiry. Really didn't, you wouldn't have known. If you didn't already know it, you would have never known he was a defensive end if you were looking at him and didn't know who he was. So that is one thing I can say about him. He looks more of the part this year. Other than that, we'll see. I'll be anxious to see what he weighs in come weigh-in day this summer. I haven't spent a lot of time watching the defensive backs or the linebackers. I spent most of the day yesterday watching the offense. So the most that I've seen of those two position groups were Monday and Tuesday during the tempo drills when they were doing good on good. And Malcolm Green was out there repping with the first team at times. So obviously he's back. One guy I haven't seen is Sherrod Koval. I'm told he's away from the team for personal reasons. I don't know what the deal is, but Green can stay healthy. They could use him over there as one at nickel in certain packages. Robert Gunn's leg is every bit as good as advertised. He booms his field goals. He booms them, and they go right down the middle almost every time. We got to watch him working on field goals yesterday, and he's got a leg. He has got a leg. If you're not that familiar with him, look up some of his videos on Twitter, or I'm sure there's some on YouTube. He's got his leg's impressive. Now we'll see if he can do it when he's got 80,000 fans chanting. But so far in practice, he's looked good. Jack Smith's looked good punting the ball too. I don't think it's out of the realm of the possibility that he wins the punting job. He just needed to be a little bit more consistent. And so far from the little I've seen, he's looked consistent. He is a 6'5", 240, 250-pound left-footed punter. I want to say he's left-footed. I'm pretty sure he is. But he is a big kid with a cannon for a leg. If you get him to be a little bit more consistent, he might end up beating Swanson out for that job. I didn't say he was gone from the team or anything. He just hasn't been there. He's dealing with something. I don't know what it is. They said he had to leave to deal with some personal stuff. That you never know. Like DeMonte Capehart hasn't been there the first couple of days. He was dealing with his mom. I want to say his mom was sick or something. So you never know what's going on with some of these kids' lives. I just haven't heard specific details of why he's not there. I haven't heard of any trouble or anything like that. So don't panic just yet. Shipley and Antonio Williams were the guys repping the first and second team reps at punt return. I imagine those will be Antonio probably be a punt returner again. He looks like he's been working out too, man. Antonio Williams looks really good. His hair is longer, but you can tell he's been working out. He looks good. Hey, you know what you got in the running backs is Shipley, Maffa, Thomas, Adams. we'll see what those two freshmen do when they get here in the summer. But those are going to be the four guys this year. It's hard for a running back to come in and really make a mark as a freshman when there's this kind of talent already on the team. I would fully expect to see your running backs be more involved this year, get more carries than they have been in recent years. And I would expect them to be divided up a little bit more evenly. I'd expect Maffa to be more involved this year. We all heard the transfer rumors a few weeks ago. And so he was at least thinking about leaving and was convinced to stay. And you better believe part of that was them telling him he's going to be more involved next year. And with Garrett Riley running this offense and him being intent on running the football and his offense revolved around running the football, those backs are going to be heavily involved. Cade said he weighed 198. I asked him what his goal weight was, and he said 208. So he wants to add a little bit more. Said he lost 5 pounds during the season last year, which that's normal for all players. They're going to lose weight during the season usually. But I'm pretty sure he said he was at 198 and wanted to be at 208 by the time the season rolled around. If you want to know how much he's going to be involved in the running game, I would go back and look how Max Duggan was used at TCU last year. That'll give you a pretty good idea. One of Cade's biggest assets are his legs, and they are going to take advantage of them. Absolutely. Tyler Venables, I haven't really seen a lot of him. I've seen him, don't get me wrong, but I haven't seen him. Again, I didn't spend a lot of time watching defensive backs or the linebackers, so outside of the tempo drills on Monday and Tuesday. Venables is Venables. You know what you got in him. Baseball team welcomes Georgia State to town this weekend. Same rotation as last weekend. Austin Gordon Friday, Tristan Smith Saturday, to be announced on Sunday. This is a Georgia State team that can hit the ball. They're not a bad baseball team, so it's not a team that can just show up and walk all over. They're going to have to show up and play. They played better the last couple of days, albeit against lesser competition. I kind of think now that we've gotten into the season, maybe Eric Bakich is realizing he's got a little bit more work to do than he might have thought he had to do before the season started. Still expect this team to get better as the season goes on and these coaches figure out what roles fit these pitchers best, and you can get a couple of these guys back healthy. They really need Ryan Ammons back. They really need Willie Weiss back. Not sounding great on Billy Barlow, but you need to get those other two guys back. Didn't see B.J. Bailey last weekend either. With the pitching woes they had, I'm assuming something might be wrong with him too. So you got to get some of these guys back, especially Ammons, especially Weiss. Yeah, that's your Friday starter and your best back end guy. That will help solve a lot of these bullpen woes. Jackson Lindley's been superb out of the bullpen. His ERA is under 2. He's been one of the ones you can rely on. Freshman Joe Allen's been mostly good. He's not been perfect. He's looked mostly good. They got to be better out of that bullpen. For the most part, starting pitching's been good enough, albeit they've not gone deep into games very often, but they've got what they needed to out of their starters most games. It's once they get into that bullpen that's been an issue. So get some guys healthy, figure out where which roles they fit in best. Hopefully they get Ammons back by Duke next weekend. But if they don't play well against this Georgia State team, this is a series that they could lose. This team can hit the ball. They can score runs. So you got to bring it. All right. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Again, if you like the recruiting stuff, I'm going to put together a list tonight of the visitors supposed to come in this weekend and visit. Be on the lookout for that tomorrow. AllClemsonTigers.com. All of the rest of your spring football coverage will be there too. Till Monday. See y'all later.